Hanneke, just picking up on your great performance tip that you gave. You gave two brilliant ones. One that I want to really pick up on is this idea of being ruthless with your calendar. I think that's really important for people to apply that thinking, so that you do get done the very things you want to get done, as opposed to the things that perhaps could be parked or delegated elsewhere. And the other bit to that as well is how you look after yourself. I was reading a book actually earlier this morning, and one of the chapters was put on your oxygen mask first. And I think that's something that also really resonates, doesn't it, with busy people, is you have to look after self first. Otherwise, you're useless to everyone. Is that something that really resonates with you too?
Yes, actually, that part really, really does. So when I was talking earlier on about being ruthless with your calendar, that applies to my personal calendar as well. So, for example, I know I'm just very, very tired on a Friday. And as a consequence, my husband and I don't plan to be very active on a Friday night. It's very rare for us to, as much as I enjoy seeing friends, it's very rare that we do that on a Friday night, because I actually want to be in bed by, I don't know, a very early hour. So thinking ahead, so on my weekends, I'm someone, I don't ask my team to do this, but because I always feel like by Friday, I'm a little bit like a candle that sort of gets snuffed out by the end of the day. My energy really goes. I'm a morning person, so my time to sort of get my head around the next week tends to be Sunday morning. So Saturdays I really keep for as much as I can for me time. And Sunday morning I sort of look at emails I might have missed, think about the week ahead, do my reading, and then it gives me the afternoon and early evening to connect with family and friends. And that works for me. Different things may work for different people, but that is sort of how I try to manage it.
One of the biggest challenges, I suspect this plays for men and women, but in particular, I feel it really applies to women, is this juggle, this constant work-life balance juggle, the mum guilt bit, all of the things that sort of play into that. And perhaps some of the reasons actually why the 30% club exists, and how that can be improved for women so that they feel like they are managing that juggle better. Is that something that you've ever suffered with? Is that something that feels resonates with you as well?
Certainly in the early years, so I felt quite guilty. Now I was very fortunate that my husband decided, so we have 3 children, decided to stay at home when our youngest was born, who's now 17, and he's still the main caregiver, and does all our finances and does everything that traditionally we might have expected the wife to do. And that's, of course, given me a lot of opportunity and time to perform at work. But occasionally I would suffer from the mum guilt, think about I'm not doing enough. Or I think, and women are probably more guilty, certainly myself, might try and interfere with how things are being done at home. So when the children, there's sort of 1 or 2 anecdotes I share about just from time to time, which make people laugh. But I remember that how the children were dressed, was quite important to me. I would buy them these cute little outfits when they were younger, and and then would come home to find that they weren't in their cute little outfits, but they were, they were dressed, and that was good enough. And I remember one summer we went to Chicago with the family because I had to be there for work for 6 weeks, and everyone came with me. And I had come from a work trip, so I came via a different route to my husband, who had, bless his cotton socks, arrived with 3 children, the youngest being 18 months at the time, and to my surprise, was pretty much an empty suitcase. And he said, "Oh, you know what I really like about America? I love Old Navy and Gap, and we can just go and fill up." And I was like, "But I have all these nice outfits at home." And that's when you realize you just need to let go, because everyone was happy and healthy. and doing their thing. So you can't. So my husband often reminds me, I might be running a large business in the office, but I have a different role at home, and that takes a bit of time, to adjust.
I was going to say that was going to be my next question. Like, how long did it take you before you did just go, it's fine. It's totally fine. Like, I don't need to get, caught up in something like you say that's quite superficial and doesn't really matter. Because I think that is one of the things that, I think because in the world in which you work, in the world in which many female professionals work, you want to do the job to your absolute best of your ability, and you see the same thing as can I repeat that pattern of behavior at home? But like we all know, children cannot be dealt with like that. It's a different dynamic, isn't it? And you just have to find that that difficulty to adapt and adjust. Did it take you a while to get to that place, or was it something that it almost went, I've just got to let this go?
Yes, it takes a while because you sort of have the guilt. I was also traveling a lot when they were younger. I was probably gone 120 days of the year. So then you have even more guilt. But I did learn to channel it into areas where I felt I could contribute, and or where into areas that I think mattered to them and the family. So making sure that you're always there for certain performances, and explain to the kids I couldn't be there for every sports day or every Christmas event or every musical performance they had, but I made sure that for each of them, you could be there for certain events, right? Or parents' evenings, or talking to them about school or university choices. So I did learn, I think, my husband may have a different view, that I learned to let go of some of the superficial things.
And finally, do you think that, yeah, and the discussions you have with them now, I mean, I look at my two and they're 7 and 2. I mean, however much I explain that it's important for mummy to work and I want to set you this example and everything else, they still would rather that I was doing the school run. So how has that changed as they've got older? Do they now, because they're in the workplace themselves, appreciate all of those choices and those decisions that were made earlier?
Yeah, it's so my sons are 21 and 19. So they're not working yet, but they're sort of doing internships, and one of them has a scholarship at his university. And as a consequence, we've talked, and I would imagine that they'll end up also in either a business or civil servant type role, more like in a in sort of environment that I'm familiar with. And we've had, in the last 3 or 4 years, way more conversations about the choices I have made when I was their age and how things have happened. And of course, that we had sort of in the previous 17 or 18 years. And that's actually been a lot of fun. They've also asked me questions around choices my siblings have made or my parents have made. So it's really interesting to observe what they do with it. Actually, my middle son paid me a compliment when he asked me to. It was the first time he'd actually put like a CV together and a letter, and he actually asked me to review it, and I did, and I made some changes, and I heard him say to my husband, "Oh, Mum's actually quite good at this." I said, "Yes, this is actually, I read a lot of CVs and letters. I can help. This is where I can help."
He's learning from the best.
And yes, yeah. Well, yes. I hope I can help. And I actually do that for a lot of young people generally as well. I think that's where you can sort of help, not, give them a couple of tips. And it's important.
Yeah, it's experience counts for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hanneke, thank you so much for your time. I won't keep you any longer. Have a lovely weekend and rest lots, hopefully, and get an early night on Friday.
We'll try. Thanks very much, Georgie.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.